Oh, yeah. We're good. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, good evening, everybody. Apologies, we're having a technical difficulty with the room camera, so we are recording off the laptop tonight. I'd ask for a motion to exit executive session at 7:25 PM.
I'll make that motion. I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained. Okay, acceptance of the agenda. The Town of Rochester Town Board accepts the agenda as prepared by the town supervisor. We will have an additional executive session at the end of the meeting that will be made up of three parts. The first part is discussion of a particular person involving the planning board. The second is discussion of a particular person involving the constabulary. And the third is discussing an ethics complaint that was made.
I'll make that motion. I'll second.
Can I request be amended? Can we move item J to item E? Before item E, can we make item J and then say firefighter first?
Yep, we can do that. And I'm also gonna ask that we switch H and I, reverse the order. So we talk about the stretch
Oh,
code
okay.
before the building code.
Yeah, that makes,
Does that work for me?
Yep, and that makes perfect sense. Thank you for that. So as amended then. So Aaron and who made the
I
second?
second.
Yeah, I accept the amendment. Am I second?
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, one quick resolution and it's in your packet. This came in, of course, the day after our regular meeting. Town of Rochester Town Board authorized the town supervisor to sign contract renewal for generator service maintenance agreement for the generator located at the Harold Lincoln Community Center between the town of Rochester and Peak Power Systems, 99 Sprague Avenue, Middletown, New York, 10940 for the period March 1st, 2023, February 29th, 2024, in the amount of $624.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Any questions or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you. You'll see the voucher in packet at the end of this month. Next, we have a presentation from Archtop Fiber, Matt Gillis. And I'll let you introduce whoever else is.
Stranger sitting next to him? Yes.
Certainly,
Stand up or stay seated?
however you like.
Are we?
Come up and sit at the table. You can stay there. If you'd like, I can share that PowerPoint.
Certainly, I think we probably have printed copies for people.
Okay. If you have printed copies, then just because of the camera thing, I think I'm gonna leave it alone and we'll just talk printed copies.
More than happy to distribute electronic copies to everybody.
Okay. Yeah. You're on.
Yes.
Always been into it. It's not so much of a suspense. I'm Sean Mackay. I'm actually one of the founders of Archtop Fiber.
Yeah. Okay, and for the board, I'll let them introduce themselves, but Archtop Fiber is a new company based out of Kingston that is dealing with fiber broadband and internet as well as phone. And with that, I'll turn it over to you guys.
Sure, okay. Matt Gillis, nice to meet everybody. Sean. So we are one of the first tenants at the iPark Kingston, which is the old IBM facility. We're part of the revitalization of that. But what we are is a telecom fiber optics broadband company.
Can I ask a quick favor?
Yes.
Can you just speak just a little bit louder? Our microphone is up
Okay,
there,
all right.
but
Gotcha.
not that you have to talk up, but just we want to make sure it picks up. So,
Okay. We are going to be building a brand new 100% fiber optic to the premises, be it residential or business, throughout this region. All the four founders of the company are veteran telecom folks. We've got 30+ years in each. with some incredible builds across the country and across the world with some really challenging situations. So this is not that hard compared to some other areas. With the fiber optics, it's the next generation with broadband service, because we are pushing light pulses through a small thread of glass, and you can pass that around. So the energy efficiency, the green factor is off the charts, because we have power at the hub site, which powers the lasers, which pushes the lights through the fiber cable, and then it comes right into your home, and that's where you plug in your ONT, or what folks call the modem, and that's just a regular 120-volt outlet. And that is different compared to the traditional cable that we're used to with the coax cable up on the lines, where every approximately 150 feet or so, there's another power source that's on there that pushes that signal a little further. 3 poles, there's another power source. So the energy consumption is so much better than our traditional services. The system that we are building, it's called an XGS-PON, so it's a 10 gigabyte right out of the gate, compared to the GPON system, which most of the other fiber optic systems in the country are based on, which maxes out at 1 gigabyte of service up and down, same for simultaneously. So we're going to start right at 10 gigabytes, and then we're also going to scale it depending on what your needs are. The 10 gigabytes, we can slow it down for you, just depending what price point you're looking at for service.
Bytes on it.
Gigabytes. And so the traditional, like the coax, we're megabytes, so that's like 100, 200, but we're in gigabytes. Why don't we sort of take one half step back and talk about sort of more of a global sort of who we are, what we're planning, what the scope of the actual build is. And then I think a lot of services that we provide will sort of come in focus at that time. First and foremost, we're 4 old friends. We have worked together. We came together working for someone who's just an icon in our industry. Was one of the people who really thought up how to get data out to millions of people around the country, going back all the way to the 50s. Actually created with Jack K. Cook, the largest company of its kind. Ultimately, that company, through some banking realities, ended up being sold to Westinghouse, became part of Group WNBC. And his name was Bill Bresnan, and he decided to take his sort of favorite guys and girls and started Bresnan Communication, which is a relatively small company, but it was just the right size, and that sort of, sort of 3 bears mentality. Some are too small, some are too big, and some are just right. We always considered our companies just right, in that we can be family owned, and we don't have too many customers that we can't listen to our customers, and too few that we don't have the capital to bring them to service. So who are we? We started out building in the Midwest, and our corporate offices were in northern Westchester. And we built about right around 1 million people. And at that point, Paul Allen from Microsoft was driving around the country creating what's now Charter Communications, creating the wired world, and he made an offer. And Bill had a very interesting management style where he made partners of all the people who were contributing. They were sort of contributing to the mission of that. And so when that offer came in from Paul Allen, sort of absurd money, he knew it wasn't going to impact his life, but it was going to impact. So we sold the company. And then we sort of looked around the room, and Bill said, "You want to do it again?" And we all sat around for a year. He paid us out of his pocket because he was really an extraordinary human. And in fact, there's one ethics award in broadband and internet service providers, and it's named the Bill Bresnan Ethics Award. And it's given every year to the one executive who does the right thing when every indication is excused, perhaps not. So when it's really hard to be truly ethical, if you can accomplish that in your own, something to take very seriously. Ultimately, we got together. We started building cable systems in the Rocky Mountains, all of Montana, all of Wyoming, Colorado. And at that time, we also built some international stuff, which Matt referred to. We built Warsaw and Krakow, Poland after the wall fell, which I can tell you is significantly harder than building in Central Hudson Valley here. We built Santiago, Chile, down to Tierra del Fuego. And in 2009, Bill was taken ill with cancer. He was dead by 2010, and the company was sold to what is now Charter Communications. So about 2/3 of Charter are former our systems, and we have, but we are not builders. You would think so by how much we have built. We are operators. The relationship with the customer is where we shine. Getting it built is my purview with the company, but ultimately handing it to our operational teams are where our excellence really comes out. We build truly fine networks, support them really well. And Bill always used to say, you sort of provide a fair service and excellent customer service. Profits take care of themselves. So we've lived by that ethos forever. I recently, when that company was sold, we were once again sort of cast adrift. Like, we really like to work together. And so we, over those last several years, we have been doing things on and off while planning one more big. We'll all have enough snow up on the roof to say we've got one more big one in us. And the Hudson Valley, for me personally, has been it's more than an emotional relationship. It really restored the place. With an immigrant family in Upper Manhattan. And we came to the Hudson Valley for all of the things that we could not do in New York City. And it has just been a place close to, which is not unusual. Everybody around this room has a story about just how wonderful this place is. For the last several years, I have built a system in partnership with the state of New York, from Corning, New York to Jamestown, New York. It's 4,400 miles of fiber in the most undense, making a word, George Bush, making a word, area of the state. It's Cattaraugus, Steuben, and Allegheny County, where there are 5 or 6 homes per mile. And so it was a challenging build, but it proved a concept that, done well, partnerships with high-tech internet companies and municipalities can work if they are set up intelligently with realistic expectations on both sides. And so we completed that construction. And at the end of that, we really come together strong. I called Lenny Higgins, who's dear friend and partner from Brooke Bresnan and Jeff DeMond and Diane Quinnell. And we said, let's do it again. I sort of picking where in the country to do it. And I kept saying, Hudson Valley, man, Hudson Valley, you gotta check it out. And the CEO, who's now Jeff DeMond, drove up and he fell in love with it so much his wife insisted they buy a house that weekend in Wyndham, New York. I live in Rhinebeck, and so we started to put together about a year and a half ago plan. And it's sort of a three-legged stool plan. We have purchased some very old family-run telephone companies in the Hudson Valley. The Germantown Telephone Company, Hancock Telephone Company. We're in negotiations. These companies have been in the same families, all of them, for over 100 years. They're the 4th generation. And historically, people have tried to buy them over the years. We take it as a point of personal honor that after decades of relationships I've had with families, that they are willing to give their legacy to us. We are not disrupting that legacy. We're going to operate that as their family companies with their remaining family members have joined our group. And that gives us 100-year-old standing in the community and certain licenses that make the expansion of broadband easy for us. It gives us a piece of terra firma to stand down and look outwards to see where we can go next. They have always struggled with access to capital, access to truly world-class technical talent. These are things that we can bring to them. So the second leg of the stool, so that's the first leg, it's operating those, interconnecting them into a larger regional fiber. The second leg of the stool is where we make vast majority of our personal investment. And by personal, we have some underlying investors, which are also good news. But we have committed $350 million of private at-risk capital into the Hudson Valley as of today. And that project is underway. We're filing permits to start construction this spring. The underlying investors are the New York State Pension Fund, the Ontario Teachers Union Pension Fund, and a couple of other institutional investors. And the reason I bring these up is that this is long-term infrastructure, very sophisticated infrastructure investors. They don't invest in just anybody, and they invest in operators who have a track record of operating with excellence for a long period of time. There are plenty other what we call fast money in our game. You know, the private equity groups who come in and say, we'll invest, you build it, we'll pump up the value, and then we'll flip it to somebody else, a strategic partner. That's not our. So what we build will not be part of Charter Communications tomorrow. And I think that's an important distinction. The third leg of the stool is why we're really here. What we were able to prove throughout the state under the new New York broadband program is that, again, as I said, done right, extension in areas which aren't economically viable for pure private capital can be done with a subsidized program to get to, and let me sort of back up a little bit. What we're going to be doing with that $350 million is building out the population centers around us, Kingston, Saugus, Hudson, Liberty, Rhinebeck, New Paltz, Warwick Valley, right? You know, all of the areas where the density is such that our return on investment makes sense, we will do with our own dollars. That leaves off a significant number of homes which have frankly been forsaken. Even the downtown areas have been forsaken by their incumbents. The phone company, largely Verizon, you don't have to go 5 minutes from here to see copper up on a pole that hasn't been manufactured in 50 or 60 years. You know, I mean, it's just absurd that it still exists, frankly. And then the cable plant that he referred to, which is that the copper plant uses electrons down a copper conduit, which is fraught. It can only go a certain number of feet before the signal drops off. Cable companies put a radio frequency on an electronic radio frequency down an aluminum conductor, which is that stinger you see on coax cable. That can only go about 150 feet before they have to pump it up with a power supply, and then ultimately it has the physical limitations in the physical world, radio frequency down on an aluminum conductor, which don't just travel in. I think anybody who passed elementary school science will know that light travels faster than radio, travels faster than than water or anything down on the fastest. And in fact, we honestly don't know the true speed of light. Is something that remains unknown. I mean, Einstein thought he had it figured out, but there are some people who have, we have learned to duplex signals and piggyback signals. So we can actually do things with light that they didn't think were possible, as recently as 5 or 10 years ago. And so we're going to be building out these cities with these dense populations ourselves and becoming a competitor to the incumbent by providing much, much faster service. And since it's competitive, it will inevitably cheaper. It's just the nature of economics. That leaves out a significant portion of rural markets, rural homes, locations, businesses, and houses, which is unacceptable. And the federal government does some things well, some not so well. And one of the, operating a network is not something that governments do particularly well. Police, fire, refuse, water, these are all things that don't change very much year to year in the big scale of things. And there are things that are fiber optic networks change at the speed of light, and they're just better operated by companies that are sophisticated in that and have the capital invested in it year in and year out, because the upgrades are fairly constant. So that leads So what the government did really well in transcontinental railroads, they threw enough money into Vanderbilt's, they built a railroad in New York. It was hard, but they did it. Rural electrification, again, when New York and Philly had power for their streetlights, Accord did not. What they did was create a universal service fund in order to get that investment into the small, and they created a ubiquitous service paradigm for electricity. We did the same thing 40 years later with telephone, and they still do support rural telephone. Broadband, they've always just left to private investment. And there was a point where that changed, and then it was exacerbated by the pandemic, and the federal government sort of came together one day and said, you know, we have to solve this digital divide once and for all. How do we do that? The federal government, let's just throw a gob of money, which is exactly where we are right now. It's about 70 or so total, but in one program alone, $42.5 billion, but spinning in the air, waiting to get invested in broadband infrastructure to complete. About 97 or 98% of the United States has access to some definition of broadband. Not my definition, but some definition. I believe if you don't have a gig, and Jess Rosenworcel, the FCC says it all the time, there's fiber, then there's everything else. So we are partnering with our communities. We have this memoranda of understanding with counties, cities, towns, and they're really simple documents. And they say broadband is really important. There is a ton of money coming into these markets. This municipality deserves all of their share and more. And a public-private partnership is how these funding mechanisms have been set up. So in a non-exclusive and non-binding way, we choose Archtop to be our provider. What does that give us? Right now, municipalities around New York and around the country are putting out RFPs, and they have hired consultants, and they're spending a significant amount of money getting prepared to extract as much of this money for that as possible. That's an expensive proposition, and we're not asking for any support in that regard. I'm going to undertake, or we are going to undertake, engineering and application on our own, but I can't just go around and go to my investors and say, oh, by the way, I'm going to engineer the entire Hudson Valley, and I have no idea whether the municipality is going to show up at the party and be our partner or not. So in order for me to say, okay, I'm going to spend this, Ulster County alone is going to cost me somewhere in the neighborhood of $200,000 to do all the engineering and ultimately do the application. So we're creating a working group of sorts anchored by the county, where we sit down and say, okay, Sean and the group of married men are going to, married men and women are going to build this network. And this is what that looks like. What about all the rest of the people who don't have it right now? How do we solve that? We're going to do an engineering plan to get to all of those people, or at least as many of them as possible. And then together, we're going to file that application. But what I don't know about sort of hyper-localism is, as much as I've loved the Hudson Valley my whole life, I'm not local. I can't say that if you want to talk about 121st Street, New York City, where I grew up, I'm a local there, right? But not here. So we have a lot of local people. We are building our corporate offices in Kingston. We're hiring about 85 people this year alone. You know, well-paying, high-tech jobs and customer care there. And then ultimately, together, as these funding programs realize and the rules, about $1.8 billion, which is earmarked from New York. We are going to create either a regional or a countywide or even an individual municipal application that will say, okay, and we're not even asking for full subsidization. We will continue to spend the cost per home that we spend everywhere else. So we're going to continue, and that's not required by the programs, but the matching funds that these programs require, we're putting 100% of that out. So these MOUs have virtually zero expectation of spend by the municipalities. What we're looking for is your local knowledge. What you're looking for is everyone. We put a map together. You tell us looks good from, from the satellite picture that you took of it. But down on at the road level, eyeball to eyeball, this is what you're missing here. These are the areas where we really get to. These are the areas which may have substandard service, but I believe firmly in getting something to everyone, or we get the best to a certain number of people. Like, make sure that and everybody has some level of service. And so that's what we're talking about here. Talking about it in a very simple document. It is, if another company were to come in right behind us, think they are more viable than us, you can certainly enter into agreements. We have no opinion of that. That's not true. I believe we're the best at what we do. We have decades of customer service awards and thousands and thousands of miles of difficult builds that behind us to prove that we will do what we say we're going to do. We have the best investment. And I said that $350 million is going to happen irrespective of term here. It's, there are 3,000 homes in the town that we're going to serve just by traveling through it. But there are 7,000 homes in the town, and I'm just drawing. I don't know what this is, so I probably should have before I'm in here. I apologize.
Around 4,000.
About around 4. So let's say we get 1,500 of them just by passing through. How do we get to those remaining? And that exercise is going to happen around a table much like this, where we literally put dots on the page and say, this is where we need to get, how much is that going to cost? We'll engineer it, we'll come up with a budget, we will fit that budget into an application for funding, we'll submit it. Ostensibly, you will agree. At that point, we wouldn't submit it without your agreement. And with that support, we hope that the state and federal government will fund that, allowing us to build not just to the 1,500 or so people that are economically viable that we can build to, but to everybody, or at least near enough to everybody. You'll find me very direct. I will tell you that there are people in this county who live so far off the beaten path that even if we were to build the network for free, operating that network is financially unviable. You have to pay Central Hudson Gas and Electric to be on every pole. You have to pay the state property tax for being in the right of way. There are certain fixed costs that distances are enemy. If there are 20 homes, you build a mile of fiber for $70,000, and there are 20 homes on that mile, we can make that work. We'll get 10 or 15 customers on that, and that will be profitable. No, not as profitable in the city where you think that 60, 70, 80 homes on that mile. But profitable enough that we, being Montanans and Iowans, understand rural. It is when you get below about 5 miles that things start getting wobbly, and where support is needed. There are some homes that are 5 miles per home, up on mountain ridges like that, which I don't want you to think I am coming here making an absolute commitment that we serve 100% of the township with any kind of answer. I don't know, because I have not done that engineering, and I don't want to be here saying, you told us this. I'm telling you, we're going to do our very level best to get to everybody. My experience is that kind of perfection is somewhat unattainable until these funding mechanisms will support the ongoing operations or prevail upon Central Hudson Gas and Electric to stop charging as much for access to the poles or some other solution in that regard. What I am saying is that we will stay your partner in that regard a year from now after it's built. My cell phone number is on all the documents. As I said, I'm in local. We will be the people that operate it when it's done. And we have really strict strategy. Certain, and they sound somewhat flippant until you think about them. Bill always used to say, call us. You should be able to have a conversation about the weather with the person you call on the phone, and it should be the same weather outside. In other words, don't call someone in another state or God forbid another country. When you call us, the furthest you will get is Kingston. If it's raining here, chances are that is how we actually make sure that our people who answer the phone speak the same vernacular as the people who are calling, and as such, we provide much better customer service. In fact, so much so that there was a point in our industry where we had won all of the customer service standard awards so often that the granting institutions tend to be trained next. Who call us and say, you know what, your metrics are better than everybody else, but you really can't win 2 years in a row. Can we give it this year to somebody else? And we would be like, well, fine, you know, and that was a bragging right for us that, you know, someone else, some other company would win it. We'd say, yeah, you won it with 20% less, you know, less score that we had. Go ahead, take the victory lap, right? And so it's something that we are really, really proud of. And we protect very, very jealous organization. I encourage you to find out a little bit about us. If you want to call Cattaraugus County right now and say, the Shaw guy, he came in and said he's going to build fiber. Did he do the same thing there? And they will tell you, and Krista there will tell you, yeah, he came in. It took a little longer because we fought with National Grid to get access to the pole. But we have a state-of-the-art fiber optic network in Cattaraugus County right now. It's operating, and I still go on installation rideouts because I just love it. And I go out there and the farm family, and they've got 4 kids, and they've been doing their homework in the McDonald's parking lot for the last 2 years. And you drop a gig into that farmhouse. I still get a joking and say they order a cube of cheese, and people send me a 5-pound block of aged cheddar. Like, I need this every year because I drop a 5-gig connection in this facility, and it changed their lives. And there aren't many places in corporate America these days where you can say that, where it is environmentally very green. It is extraordinarily resilient and secure. It tends to stay working when everything else goes down. We put hub sites every 20 kilometers, which we can sling light about 20 kilometers down, just without any regeneration. And we put generators in all of our hub sites and battery backups in all of our homes. So if the electric goes down, you have usually about 24 hours. You can get more battery backup if you wish. But even though it's not required by the federal government, we actually provide those battery backups. Quite simply because we provide people's phone service, and I just don't want the phone call about it. I couldn't get 911 on my phone. I sleep at night. Not being able to do that would impact my business. So that's the sort of long and short, a little bit longer than I thought it would be. But happy to answer any questions.
What's your time frame? Obviously, you're talking about strategy and designing a system at this point. What's your time frame to, you know, installation and gathering customers? We'll be looking at a year, 2 years.
Great question, and it's sort of the acquisitions of the incumbent phone companies that we have are in front of the Public Service Commission. We expect those decisions in several 2 to 3 weeks. It's Albany though, so we believe that. We are already starting permitting. I literally just placed a $2 million order May for fiber optics, which will be stored in our new warehouse in Kingston. So I will be constructing fiber in the area, starting in Saugerties and Kingston, edging out into Dutchess, Ulster, and Sullivan counties in May, and we will be looking at customers in June. Okay. What your next question I can probably suss is when you're going to get here, and that is not quite as clear to us yet. We're going to be creating the interconnections between our systems. Right now, a plan of record that I have made a personal commitment to fulfill to our investors is to be completely done in 18 to 24 months. So the worst case scenario is that I believe you're somewhere in the middle of where we're going to be getting to. Some of the far reaches along the Delaware River are going to be at the end of that. You guys are happily geographically sort of right in the middle of the bill. If you were one of the larger communities and, you know, direct this gives you the news and the bad news. Say, why is it being small? Why should being small be a penalty on timing? And my answer is it shouldn't, but it is. And, you know, we have to sort of fish where the fish are first and then move out from there. And also the downtown areas are easier for us to build. The outer areas require public-private partnership. Now the schedule on the public funding and planning piece of that, of a less dense area is, yes, we have some urgency on getting these MOUs done sooner rather than later, so we can get to work. Some of your neighbors have already passed them, and we're trying to get from one of these meetings to another. And then the final rules of these funding mechanisms have not been released, but we believe sometime in June, we will be building applications for submission in the summer for an award in the fall. And that will kick off what I call high-level design engineering that we do in order to pass the application process. We'll immediately pivot into low-level design, the street-level design, where we're actually saying, okay, in the splice case right outside on Main Street, the orange sheet gets spliced to the blue sheet. But we actually have to do that level of design. This is a 288 count fiber. This is the largest fiber we'll be putting up. It has extraordinary capacity. And then it goes down to 40 to 144, 96, 48 counts. So think of it as arteries and capillaries. Right? This is your aorta, and it goes all the way down to the last, and down to what is called a drop fiber, which is this is what goes into your house. By all means, pass them around and look at them. And
What is, obviously we're served, Charter Spectrum has the majority of their account. We have a franchise agreement with them for cable TV, as they like to point out often. Broadband, in their opinion, is a secondary product that they offer and is not covered under the franchise agreement. And we understand and agree with that. That being said, we have, what would you say, Michael, 150 properties probably unserved, roughly. Some maybe by choice, some not, but potential anyway. So I guess my next question is, where do you guys go from to market your possibility of your product to customers that are already served to essentially get customers?
I'm gonna sound flippant, but show of hands, how many people like Charter Communications?
None of us are going to raise our hand right now.
So, you know, I often say we want our competitors, Verizon, to keep doing that. One will do more. So this sort of internal vernacular elements. We provide faster, more stable service, and it will be cheaper. And that the nature of competition drives it down. Participation in these funding programs, usually, and participation is there will be a price cap that they insist we adhere to for 4 or 5 years. You know, we will come up with that goal, and we will happily do that. Given their commitment to continue to try and squeeze the last value out of their coax, and Verizon not willing to invest anything in their capital, they're putting all their money in 5G and wireless. We're comfortable with that. And they just continue to do what we're doing. We'll be there soon. As far as I'd like to talk a little bit about the franchise, if I may. I actually, dating myself, came out of the Commerce Committee when that 96 Act was rewritten. Back then, it's been since 1996. But the internet didn't exist back then. They were on fiber. And we're still operating under the same set of rules. So that absurdity manifests itself in exactly that. Title VI allows states to defer to the localities management of their right of way and charge for video services a fee, 5% franchise fee for that right. Anything that's not video, the FCC qualifies as an information service and not subject to franchise fees or Title VI. So it's not, the charter loves that, obviously. And if we were to say, okay, we're gonna enter into stuff paying you a 5% franchise fee, it would immediately be taken to the Supreme Court. Right? So other companies have tried it. And so we operate under a different setting. We are what's called a CLEC, or a competitive local exchange company, and we are registered at the state level. And our access to the right of way comes from an agreement called the Certificate of Public Conveyance. So we can build anywhere in the state within that right of way without a local permission. It's just because we can doesn't mean we should. Hence, we'd be sitting here now. Will we be seeking a cable franchise agreement? No, we will not be offering video. Do we want to have a partnership with you, and you tell us you have access to what the decisions we're making or not? Is that going to impact franchise fees that we get? Absolutely. We will be taking customers from Charter, and some of them will stop offering video. But I would propose that you're going to lose those video customers eventually anyway. The federal government needs to rewrite the United States Act to come up with fair and equitable use of right-of-way fees to everybody, and we will be standing right next to that along the way. But one thing we insist on is playing by the rules 100% of the time, every time. And we're not going to try and bend that around. We'll be very vocal about what's right and wrong, but we will do what's in the rules every time.
Well, I will tell you, I've testified now 3 times in front of the Public Service Commission about making broadband a public utility. And this battle with Spectrum, I'm in my 6th year as supervisor. I've taken it on for that period of time. People before me in this town took it on. Councilman Coleman has become our Spectrum Cablevision liaison, and I can tell you he's pulling his hair out. And no pun intended there, Michael. So with that, I'm going to let him, with the board indulge me, let Michael ask any questions he might have, because he probably knows as much about this as any of us sitting at this table. So
It's a lot of pressure.
I know.
No, actually, the only one is the question I have is not a policy question. How many towns and also towns already signed MOUs? How many towns do you have to talk to?
We're working really hard. I was at Rosendale last night. We have been to many dozens of these, and yep. So we have City of Kingston signed, executed MOU, Town of Ulster, Town of Saugerties, Village of Saugerties, Town of Esopus. 2 nights ago, Marbletown, they did their informal vote. They're going to approve it in 2 weeks. Rosendale's going to do it next month at their second Wednesday. They're going to approve it. Woodstock is our last presentation next week, so we're going to get that on March. So by the end of March, we're going to lock up almost every municipality. And so we also have Sullivan County, Ulster County, Shaw was doing the attorneys today on language. That's pretty close. Dutchess County is almost ready to sign, and we're just working language out with Columbia County.
And they have, the board knows I sit on the digital commission that the county comptroller formed, and they presented to that commission, and that commission has expressed interest in pursuing from a county level. The county is looking at it. One question I had for you, I know in the information you gave us, a number of these lines will be run underground. Along local roadways, and it looks amazing. But what kind of percentage are you talking about? Because you do talk about Central Hudson poles. So how much is underground? How much is above ground? And
if I wake up screaming in the night from anything, it's I make great charge. And if I were to have my druthers, every little bit of this would be underground, but we're having that in the ice storms. And, you know, and the only aggravation I would be having is places to just the only beds that we trench through, and I can live with that once. You know that. The cost of going underground is prohibitive. So in that sort of finite world of investment math, if we spend too much money and too much underground, there are people who should get service who won't, because our budget is not with unexpected high costs. The normal, if there is a normal in our industry, it is about 80-20 to 70-30, 80% to 70% being aerial, 20 to 30% being. I believe we will be closer to 60-40 because we are vetting a new technology, which Google tried to fail miserably at. It's called microtrenching. And we have some, and basically,
Yeah,
it's,
Matt sent us some of the info on
instead of digging a 10-inch wide trench 36 inches down and disrupting the entire right of way, we actually run a very, very small saw, 1.5 inches in diameter, with a vacuum attachment to it, so it makes no dust, right along what's called the fog line, along that white line along the side of the road. We go down about 24 inches. We put in a microduct in that area, and we use a much, much smaller diameter fiber. So we'll have a 288 count fiber that's about half this size. And this is the microduct that we put in. So we will be putting, you know, our main stuff through there, and there will be additional ducts available for other entrants. If the town wants a direct connection somewhere else, the duct will then be available for that. And I believe that the economics, if we push the volume as high as 40%, we'll be able to bring the cost down, be able to make that pay off. A lot of that will be driven by the electric utilities in New York State have long deferred maintenance. The last rate increase tariff that Central Hudson submitted, really admitted that as much as 70% of the coal stock is out of date, is beyond the number of years that's determined. So then we come along and we're like, here comes Sean, he's got a big stack of money, so let's get him to replace all. And then there's a fight over what's a condition, what isn't. If I can avoid that entire process, not just in its delay, it takes me 6 months to get it, plus an additional 2 months from the Department of Transportation. If I can get it deployed, that's 6 months of revenue that can go towards paying it off.
in our town, and I'm guessing it was a regional thing, within the last 2 seasons, construction seasons, they did replace most of the poles throughout our community within the last couple of years. So
That's terrific.
yeah, they've been major. So yeah, what they did is everything's now taller.
And that gives access to us because Verizon is at the low point of the pole. Charter Spectrum is a foot above that. We'll be a foot above Charter. There needs to be 40 inches between us and the front and secondaries to push electric service on those poles. So in the smaller 35-foot poles, you get a bit of a squeeze going on, and you can do 6-inch separations between telecom providers as long as everybody agrees. If we're coming in to compete with someone, the chances of them agreeing to that are fairly slim. So it's a bit of a chess game, a little bit of brinksmanship, a little bit of poker, and but we're good at it. And we've been doing it a long time. And obviously, when we sold the systems in Montana, the governor stood up. You can imagine the company spending billions of dollars on the network. The governor says, well, we're really happy for the president, boy, but this is a terrible thing in the state of Montana because nobody would mind as good as they are at operating the system. You can imagine the CEO of the company buying us saying, what? You know, and so that was a moment in my life. Okay, that was a payoff for years of doing the right thing every time. And I'll stop selling myself now. And, you know,
Any other questions from the board members? There's a lot to take in, but I think it's,
I was just curious, in your opinion, do you see broadband in the building?
I don't know that I have a complete understanding of even what it is. You know, the utilities around you don't exist anymore. They're not public entities. They are Central Hudson Gas and Electric is owned by Fortis, which is a mutual. National Grid is owned by the Spanish. You know, they're not. It's not the same. I believe that broadband, if not already is, will be in the next cycle that Congress ever gets some of the function out of that, will be considered public record. It will be the obligation of government to make sure that it is provided to everyone, because you are significantly disadvantaged. I believe that, which is why we do it. You know what that sounds like. We do what we do because it's profitable and we're good at it. But we also believe in what we do, which is that everybody should have it. Do I believe it'll ever be regulated like an electric utility or the incumbent phone company? I don't. I don't think there's an appetite for that at SEC. I believe that there will be some kind of funding mechanism which comes to high cost areas. I propose this at the Department of Public Service recently. There is a state high cost fund for telephone. It could easily be adjusted to be an information service support and not voice service support. And I think that's what they should do. It's a path of least resistance, and it would solve, if not all of the problems, certainly the vast majority. We will be participants in that. You know, I always say, don't listen to what I tell you in this meeting, we'll test 6 months from now, and you know, and judge us by what we do and not what we promise. And I think you will see that we are here to participate, and again, here to operate and provide service, not just build it and make a bag of cash. Appreciate it.
For the Archtop Fiber, I understand your team has been working together for a long time. Archtop Fiber itself
Friends, thank
is
you.
brand new. So in terms of the service providing aspect, how is that going to look?
It's a great question. Our CEO, we had our sort of holiday dinner together. But you know, we've done this a number of times. The first 14 people we worked with, really sort of a moment for me, because 14 out of 14 had worked either for or with me at some other point in my career. And we're now up to about 20 people on our way to 85 for the corporate office. And with the exception of Matt and 1 or 2 others, everybody, we just hired today, the head of operations, she's coming from Colorado. The reason I say that is we have no anticipation of being different than what we are as our DNA, because we're hiring the same people. Jeff said, what's always amazing is that every time we have done one of these, and I've been involved in 4 of them, he's done 7 over his older than I am. We call our friends and we say, oh, but then the dynamic of that conversation, something goes something like this. You're in a really comfortable job where you are right now, things are really easy and very comfortable. Why don't you leave that really comfortable job? Come and start something new with us, have a lot more risk, a little bit less money, and maybe things will pay off in 3 to 5 years. And invariably, people say, sure, we'll sign up for that. And it shocks us every time, right? You know, everyone's like, really? You know, and that's where we are. We have people moving from all over. Our technology is a close personal friend who lives here from Pittsburgh. Not because he likes to drive across 80, but because he believes that this process we have. And he is quite simply the best chief technical officer I've ever worked with. He's a pain in my butt, but he is excellent at what he does. We have our head of customer care, Diane Cornell, and she is, you'll notice that it's not an accident, that she is a founding partner. You can say, why do we need marketing and customer care now? when we haven't built a network yet. The reason is because she sets the tempo of how we interact with our communities and we respect it well. And we need customer advocate at the founder level, and that's Diane, and she's done this with us in multiple times. So our DNA is not likely to just change, and it's, I would say, it's close to impossible that it's going to change, because it's the same humans. I don't know, now we're going to hire local care people. Hope they're going to be trained by the same people who trained them for us last time. And we will continue to try and hire from our, dating myself here with our Rolodexes, so we can continue to do well what we've always done well in a new environment.
But it'll be, so you'll, the kind of the short Cliff Notes version is you'll create the network, and then probably at the same time it'll be happening as a network. And they'll be signing up customers. They'll tie into the 60% of it underground. That'll mostly be also underground to the individual homes or businesses.
Yeah,
And
it changes depending on those. Sometimes people don't want to look at their front lawn, so you go aerial. There's, but yes, as a general rule, it's underground in front of houses.
And then it's phone service and broadband together, or one or the other, or
But you can take one more than the
Okay.
other,
okay.
because so many people have recorded doing a video service. Netflix, Hulu, Prime, with these speeds, that which there will be a abundance. Certainly. I'm always shocked when you buy that my rock. I'll just take the phone service. Yeah, it comes with the, and
Do
so.
you find people, excuse me for interrupting, but that got rid of their home landline because everybody has a cell phone now? Do you find people, because you offer phone, adding it back on again?
Not necessarily because we offer it, and in fact, we're offering it for two distinct reasons. One is we own incumbent phone companies which provide us with that infrastructure all in place, and we're good at it. And the second, from a market perspective, is despite everybody having a cell phone, I dropped 2 calls on my way here. Right, because the cell service here is just 20,000. So we're cell phone service and it's terrible. It's terrible in my house. I'm dead. Half a mile from downtown. It's terrible outside of the office. I drive across the Line Bridge. I was call my 85-year-old mom every afternoon. I'm like, why can't you get home? That car. And I mean, just floating call her when I know I'm going to drop my phone. But so yes, we find that people sign up for service because frankly they need it. It's their service at home. And then there's the people who just want it. They have it. And, the business at home that they really need something where they have a security service that needs a hardline connection. There are a whole host of reasons. It is not a key revenue stream for us, but from a social perspective, it is important for us to provide, and there is still revenue. I'll just give that back.
Any other? Thank you very much for your detailed presentation.
I'm going to leave cards.
The MOU that you sent me, Matt, that is, I want to run it, have our attorney review it.
Draft version, like council look at that,
Okay,
send back in the line comments, and then we'll circle back with you. Depending what they are.
our next business meeting is March 2nd. What I'll do is she's going to be away for a week, so I'll get it to her, get her to look at it, see if she has any comments. Obviously, the board will want to discuss it more, but we'll certainly be back in touch.
And you have my phone number and email, so get a hold of me.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, folks.
Very informative. Appreciate it.
Really appreciate it. Thank you.
No, yeah, like, man, I'm really behind the curve on this generation.
Okay,
Yeah, those are like those.
moving next to, and I apologize, this is the fire district exemption. It says for discussion 2.2, but it should have been changed to 2.9 because I did make the updates we talked about. And so what I'm presenting to you, I took a little bit from the county and a little bit from Marbletown's version and did the usual Mike Gayton version. I talked with our assessor about it. I ran it by Mary Lou, who sent back email this afternoon and said, I have no issues or comments. So,
Can I,
yep,
can I make a motion that we offer privileges as far as to your announcement?
I would second that. So, Peter, if you'd like to come up and join us.
The good news is you know more about the library than you probably want to do tonight, right?
No, it's been very interesting.
So Michael made it. I seconded to allow Peter to join the meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
I'm not here representing, I'm here as a listener. I wanted to listen to you guys. Maybe I might be able to answer some questions on that. I just wanted to-
Okay.
The district did not send me.
Feel free to stay at the table.
Going on the right in the line of the camera.
You can't go back.
Sorry, viewers.
So the short story is on December 9th of last year, the governor signed into law this change from a program that existed previously in a different incarnation. So some communities already had some version of it. Any community that has a version of it, if they want to adopt this version, has 3 years to do that. We do not have one. It would allow the volunteer firefighters and volunteer ambulance workers to file exemption, which is due at the same time as all other exemption forms, which is March 1st of any given year. So there's a little time constraint issue. But they can get a 10% reduction on their valuation of their property. There are some criteria that they have to meet. They have to reside in the town and be a member of an organization that serves the town. So in our town, by my quick estimation, that would be Kerhonkson Fire, because we do have a couple properties that are served by Kerhonkson Fire. It would be Accord Fire. It would be Marbletown First Aid. It would be Kerhonkson First Aid. And probably, I'm guessing Ellenville First Aid as well, although I'm not sure if they're 100% volunteer. So I don't know, but I'm guessing. I don't know if you have to be 100% volunteer. The way it works, though, they have to live in the town and be enrolled or be a member of an organization that serves the town. They have to have their primary residence there. If it's not used exclusively for residential purposes, it can be prorated, my understanding. And the portion that is residential of the valuation can be taken. We can set the membership duration from anywhere from 2 to 5 years. We did talk at our last meeting of setting it at 2. So that is the language I put in here. Also, in addition, is a lifetime exemption for any member who has accrued 20 years of active service. The certification must be done annually, meaning they would have to fill out the application on an annual basis. We would ask the agency to provide us with a list of their members and their membership date of joining. Now, the one thing, because March 1st is the taxable status date, if we were to move this forward to public hearing now, by the time we held the public hearing, got it filed with the state, it's 19 days, 20 days away from March 1st. So it is not possible for us to adopt it for this coming tax year. However, we could move it forward if we choose to adopt it and take effect. And people would apply for next March. I know the county's not holding their public hearing until March 14th, and they won't do an adoption until the following month. So the county is also not, a couple, to my knowledge, Esopus and I believe possibly Saugerties did adopt it already in January, and they might be able to get it. The other thing is, and this was pointed out to me from our assessor, and it's on the back of the application form. Anybody who takes the $200 as a volunteer firefighter, and I believe ambulance worker, there is an IRS tax deduction in New York State that you can take of a $200 reduction of your taxes. You essentially, whatever you owe or whatever you don't owe, you get $200 for credit. You can't piggyback. You can do either this or the IRS. But given that the town in itself probably isn't going to equal enough for it to be $200 unless your property is valued very high. But us combined with the county, combined with if the school district chooses to do it as well, that's certainly a sizable reduction in people's taxes. Now, bear in mind that that reduction is going to be cost shifted. It's not that we suddenly get less taxes, it's going to shift to the rest of the population in the town, the rest of the taxpayers. So that's the sort of elevator speech of it, for lack of a better way of putting it. So I want to hear what you guys think. I'm prepared that we move this forward to public hearing, but I want to hear what you guys think.
I'm 100% that we should move it forward to public hearing, and I encourage the fire companies and all of the public to try to get out to this board meeting and encourage them so that combined it'll be hopefully a worthwhile exemption for all of you guys at the tax service with all that.
I've been in touch with the school boards, trying to go that direction as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anybody else? Any thoughts?
Yeah, so I did go to the fire commissioners meeting last night. Told them that we had had the discussion about 2 years. They thought that was a good marker. They did have some discussion about, you need to figure out what specifically is considered a member. I said, well, we're currently looking for you to kind of define what that is. And they asked what the timeline was, and hopefully I said this correctly, we would need to know before the next tax year. So it's not like they need to decide in a month. But we would eventually need to know that, and there would need to be some kind of process. And this is something I was unclear, and I'm trying to read through the law here right now. So we're provided the list of those enrolled members. I don't know if there's anything specific that the assessor or the town needs to do to verify that. I think that the town can, if you so choose, have some kind of verification process. So I don't know if we want to consider that. And we're dealing with potentially 3 different organizations here, fire district and 2 EMS squad. So that's one thing I wanted to discuss.
I'm not, my short answer is I'm not sure it needs to be included in the law because that's part of the process and procedure. I did feel questions from some other supervisors in some other towns because the Supervisors Association has been discussing this as a body. And, some people asked, can there be a cap on it? There cannot be a cap put on it, a cap on the amount of exemption. So one supervisor asked that, the 10% reduction in valuation, but can it be capped at not to exceed X number of tax dollars? The short answer is no, the law does not allow that possibility. The other question is, and I have seen this, is can you set standards for what a member is? I don't believe the law allows us to do that. The agency provides us the list. We take their list in good faith. Now, certainly, can we ask for verification? I think absolutely we can. But I don't think we can say, I've seen versions say a member must be in good standing. I don't know what that really means. I don't know that the law really allows that language.
I don't think that's really our place. to define
Exactly.
Either, that's up to the fire company or the ambulance squad. What in good service. And
So certainly, like, for any, in my opinion, in any applicant who's applying for, say, a senior exemption, we ask them for verification of their income. So certainly, if a member applies for this exemption, we probably can ask the member, can you please verify that you've been a member for X number of years? I think we can. We get the list from the department that is the coverage, but it is a little bit uncharted ground, but it has been happening already to some degree, just not in this form.
And I think the way it works is if you hit your 2-year mark and you're an active member, you qualify, we'll use the fire district as an example, provide us with that list. If 3 years after that, that person is no longer an active member, they
It wouldn't be on the next
wouldn't be
year,
on the list.
because the list comes each year. And we would have to do the list as of March 1st, because that is our taxable status date. So they would obviously provide it to us sooner than that, but the March 1st. So for example, next year, March 1st, 2024 would be the cutoff date. So you would base your membership based on that date. So if you were a member March 1st of 2022, on March 1st, 2024, you would be eligible.
And the fire district currently has a model for what they consider a member.
Yeah,
An active member.
yeah, correct, because we have, we have to be OSHA certified, training requirement, all of that. So there is a mechanism there looking at how to codify that for this.
Okay.
And I think the eligibility, the language is the applicant has been certified, and I know that carries with it a legal requirement. They're essentially, by the signature of whoever is providing this, whether it be the district chief or the chair of the board of commissioners, my guess is that's probably who would be signing it. They are certifying that that is accurate. And with that comes, obviously mistakes can be made, but if there's fraudulent activity, it does come with legal ramifications. And I don't mean to sound onerous about it, but there is a check and balance system in place.
Yeah, and this is the section that, and this may be a Mary Lou question, and I think,
Yeah.
depending on her answer, might be something for the board to discuss. Shall be the duty and responsibility of the governing body, municipality, school district, and/or fire district adopts a local law, ordinance, or resolution pursuant to this section to determine the procedure for certification. So that's in the section where it says the applicant has been certified by the authority having jurisdiction for the incorporated volunteer fire. So they certify, and then it sounds like at the state level, we're leaving an option for the taxing district to also have some level of certification. I'm not saying we need that, but that's what I'm curious if it's section 2 of the law, or section 2D. If that's a mechanism that they put in place to say, okay, we have the list, is there a secondary verification that's optional for town? I don't know that we need that in this case. I think we can take.
Yeah. Well, the assessor, when the application is filed, has the responsibility and requirement to certify or to review the application that the data is correct. And so in this case, I didn't bring it with me, but there is an application specific for this exemption that Jeremy provided for me. And it has those questions, and the person filing the exemption by signing it is essentially committing that that information is accurate. And again, there are legal ramifications. It's filing a false document. So, could it be taken advantage of? Sure, but there are repercussions if it is. So I think we're covered, and You know, the language is, the state, I will say, the local law that the state adopted, or that was signed into effect, is pretty clear, which is why you're not gonna see a lot of variations of language floating around out there, because most of this language is cut and pasted directly out of the state's language.
So the way I'm reading what we have here in terms of certification. So the fire company or volunteer ambulance service would submit their list. Do we need something in here where the individual members, because of the fact that you might potentially lose the credit, should we have a process in here that says that the individual also files the assessment office?
They have to,
Yeah, because that's how you get the exempt.
That's-
You have to file
that's,
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out if that's in here, because I don't think that's the way the certification is.
no, the certification is separate from the individual. But the individual,
Application for such exemption, so, and grant exemption, section B is that.
Yeah,
Shall
that'll
be
be
filed
followed
with
in
town
town
assessment.
assessment.
Okay.
A quick question. I work with a lot of first responders and especially volunteer fire departments all over the states. And I know a lot have different types of members. They have junior members, auxiliary members, social members. And I know you can only speak for Accord. What types of members do you guys have?
We have, basically, we don't have, I'm the chief of this company here, so a member of the district, only two companies have. We do not have a liaison. We have active members, we have life members. And that's one of the things that is a slight differentiation between life members in our company and the other companies. And so I think the district is gonna, because they are essentially our employer, if you will, they are gonna adopt the language, they're gonna adopt the standard that is good for all of the companies. There is a slight variation. We don't have junior members.
And that's one of the, that's one of the problems that I know a lot of volunteers are having. Their membership is, again, they're there for forever. How long do you have to be a member of the
20 years in our company.
New York State put in, it wasn't a law, but it was a recommendation for volunteer fire departments to have essentially a pension credit for folks that were there. And I think it was over 30 years. Do we do anything like that now?
We have a LoSAP program, which is the support program. And that's another program that firefighters who are vested in a 5-year term and active, and there's a certain number of points that you need to accrue in order to get that credit year. You have to have that credit for 5 years before you're vested, and then each year you have to qualify for those points. You get 40, you get it to 51, you're fine for that year, and then that amounts to $15. $15 per month per year served. Okay. So that it's a small sort of financial requirement.
I gotta be honest, I work with first responders all over the state, and especially our volunteer fire department. The time, the effort, the energy that you guys put in, if there's anything we can do for you, I think we should pursue it.
Training all that.
It's just,
Hundreds of hours.
It just seems to be these families that live and die there and do it generationally and do it for decades at a time. And again, we need to.
if I can interject, you just hit it there. And I may not have the exact numbers, but I've been told by other members of the fire district that we are one of the lucky ones in that we are actually gaining new, younger members, and it's a generational thing. Many of these people that are joining now, their fathers or mothers or brothers or grandfathers or members, and they want to join. And you see, like Marbletown has 7 different fire districts. I can't even imagine. We have 2 and that's enough. But they had to take over 2 of them because they just flat out ran out of members. And, we are lucky in that we have a very dedicated group of volunteers who appear to still be continuing. And actually, I heard, and I don't know if it's actually accurate, that we're actually growing in members.
I wouldn't say it's growing. I think throughout the county, specifically in our town, two of our biggest challenges are recruitment and retention. So this is another tool we can put in our toolbox of the LoSAP program and other credit, either or credit. It's just it's a small incentive for people to take part, because it is a huge commitment. But no, it's just a big commitment time and effort for all of us, and we do it. I believe in helping communities in our DNA, so to speak. But it's our biggest challenge is recruitment and retention. And I think that the either or, my opinion, is a good thing, because we have a lot of these other members don't own property, so they're not going to be eligible for this. Right. And and so, but they would be eligible for the $200 credit, if they put it on their taxes. So this is going to be not like everybody in the department is not going to be eligible for it, because the requirements that you have to be a resident and you have to live in the property. So that number is going to winnow down quite a bit.
But especially for, our folks that, as they, acquire a property or start a family or things like that, again, they could use that time in 1,000 different ways, especially lucrative ways, small.
Well, roughly for a $300,000 property, this is on a town level, this is going to save somebody or gain somebody $100 in taxes, which that's sensible. But then if you add the county on top of that, which is probably 2 or 3 times, it's at least 2 times, probably 2.5 times. So there's another 250. So between the two, now you're up to 350. Now, if you can get the school on board even more so, now it's huge.
Right. It makes a difference, and that's why a bunch of us are sort of working to try and get this forward, and working with fire districts and other towns. We have people that are on our fire department that are actually live in the town of Marlborough, so they wouldn't be eligible for what you all decided to do, but they would be for the school district, right? And then Marlborough. So all fire departments are pushing for this.
Well, I hadn't thought about it in that terms, that because if they live in Marbletown and you don't go into your district doesn't go into Marbletown at all, so they would never be eligible for the town level, but they could get the county level or the state level.
Right. And we have firefighters. We are able to have firefighters that live in each of those districts that are part of our fire department and also part of our eligibility.
I'm sorry.
Do we need to address, so what happens if there's 2 people in the household that are owning property that are both? 'Cause it's EMS and fire, so it's.
So Jeremy shared a Q&A session from assessors. Assessors are working with real property right now. So I don't think, according to what it looks like, real property is going to come back with is they would both be eligible. So they could each get 10%. So they could get a total of 20%, to my understanding. But I think that doesn't need to be addressed in the local law. I think that's more in the process of the application process from the assessors.
Yeah, I was gonna say if it was the opposite, we should mention it in the law, but if it's not, then,
I don't know that they have the answer yet,
Yeah.
but
I mean, both people would have to be on
yes.
the, so.
Well, that was another question too, is if you qualified for like a veterans exemption, if they can be paired together, and I think the answer is yes.
Yes.
Something else.
So for yes, it does actually say that in the diminution of benefits. Diminution, yeah.
Do we, yeah, I thought I saw that. Am I missing, did we address, unmarried spouses?
We did not, most towns are not addressing that. We could add it if we want to. The county did add it.
So there are two options. You can do it, unmarried spouses, people killed in the line of
Killed in the line of
duty or deceased. I think it's worth considering either of those.
I thought it was only children left.
The section right after that, it says unmarried spouses, of deceased volunteer firefighter. The one before that is killed in the line of duty. So I think it's a worthwhile thing to consider. Okay. We're talking about how much the contribution is.
Well, if we're not in a hurry, then I can add that to bring it back. I was gonna say move this to public hearing now, but we should probably wait because that's a significant change. So we
Yeah, and-
couldn't move it forward.
And that one does require that, I think, they had been enrolled and had achieved at least 5 years. I think that one doesn't include 5 years. So there is some, you've committed a significant portion of your life. Your spouse is going to be able to benefit from that.
I'm happy to add that in if the board wants to. We, like I said, most towns were not considering that I saw, so I did not include that in this, but the county is doing. So I don't know if they're doing the line of duty. Obviously, we hope we never have to address that, but having it in there would not necessarily be a bad thing because certainly something we want to.
Well, if you do deceased, you're covered for line of duty. If you want to only get line of duty, then we should.
I'll rewrite it and bring it back to the March 2nd meeting with both options, and then we can go from there. Then.
People agree.
Obviously, if, we're not gonna get it done for this March 1st at this point, so.
Yeah.
We want to get it done, but we don't have to be.
Yeah, I'd like to see it.
Okay. No, I'm fine with that, so, okay. So we'll take no action on this tonight. I will add in those sections and bring it back to the meeting. Thank you, Peter. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you for all you guys do.
Oh, we're at.
Pause.
Get water.
You know.
Nope.
All right, thanks a lot, you guys.
Thank you, Peter.
Good night.
I mean, the Jeopardy music or something.
I would like to point out, like, you're the only one at the table now who's not wearing a black shirt. So
Oh,
all of us
look at that.
are wearing black.
That's the time.
And
Well, I
Dance.
Adam and Charlotte are both in black.
I went like totally up. I've got my black armband there.
It's true.
I just that showed up though.
It doesn't very.
I gotta move on again.
Me too.
Yeah, I've worked in a business where we always said to the station, you opened up their dresser drawer and it was a stack of black shirts. You have the t-shirts, you have the black golf shirts. So, I put the assessor field worker position on the agenda. If we want to have further discussion about it, we interviewed the 2 candidates. We could wait until March. Jeremy did indicate a bit of a sense of urgency of getting somebody appointed. So does somebody feel inclined to make a motion to appoint somebody, or do you want to discuss it further in executive session?
Maybe we should discuss it further just for a couple minutes.
Okay.
Did you want to do the bids?
Yes. Yes. So we received 1 bid provided to us from the town clerk. I put the RFP in your packet so you could just compare what we asked for. I will say it is very thorough. It addresses everything we asked for. They do have a proposed contract in here that I will share with the attorney if we want to accept the bid. So what would, let me backtrack. What we would do is we would accept the bid. We can then award it pending contract agreement and move forward, or we can reject the bid. I'm thrilled that we got one. It is very thorough. I have a couple questions on the design that I want to sort of ask them about. Because if you look at the second page of the design, it appears to me that they're moving the ADA compliant bathroom forward. And I'm okay with that. And it looks, if you look on the next page, you see that they're proposing the storage to be behind it. And the utility area behind it. My question is, how do we access those areas? Because they don't show it anywhere on the drawing. There's no doorway. There would have to be, in order to do that, there would have to be a doorway in the bathroom because we wouldn't be able to go into the judge's chambers because otherwise the door going to the utility would open up directly behind the judge.
Yeah, there's this door.
Yeah,
Is that what you're saying?
Which door?
this
In
one,
the lower right hand.
so that looks like it comes back.
Oh.
That storage in the back.
Now I see it.
Yeah.
I didn't see that that was a door. Now I see that there's a door there. So. Oh, yeah, okay. I got
Better
it.
design than what we were thinking.
Yeah, much better design. I missed that additional door.
How much do we have for this permit?
So we got 30,000 from the grant.
But the
Adam,
original,
so, on this, where is that door that you got?
On the bottom.
So this is the front coming in from court. That's coming in from the storage room on the side.
Oh,
You
well, that's
know?
actually coming in from the,
you know, when they keep all the books and stuff.
it's coming in from the office.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay,
So it's like,
and actually that almost makes sense.
Yeah.
That it's separated, yeah.
Yeah, that is not
Yeah, you
section
know,
office is one.
Well, cause with the way we were thinking about it, you know, people that were in the court would also have access to some of these areas. I mean, they'd be locked and stuff, but that actually makes it part of the.
So to answer your question, Charlotte, we got 30,000 that we already have. In, we received that money last year, 2022. What we would have to do to proceed with this is we would have to move over the 92,000, whatever the bid amount is.
Yeah, we have to pay first, so it's just a reimbursement.
No, not with this. We got the money, the 30,000 already. That's all we're gonna get. We're not gonna get more money unless we apply for another subsequent grant. But we didn't apply for one this year because we hadn't spent last year's money.
and if we don't spend it, they want it back.
Yeah, we have to give it back if we don't spend it. So
Sorry, yeah.
let me just
Okay.
finish the process. So what we would have to do is from the general fund, we would move over the 92,000, whatever the amount is, into the capital projects fund, because this has to become a capital project. This, we can't just do this through the general fund. I have to investigate the law to see what we have to do. If it is taxpayer money that we have already gotten, I don't believe we have to do a referendum. If it was money that we were proposing to be future taxpayer money. So if we're just taking it out of fund balance, which is essentially what we're doing right now, we're taking 92,000 out of fund balance. Because the 30,000 that we got at the end of December became part of our fund balance. Does that everybody follow that? So, but eventually we either have to use it or give it back. So if we use it toward this, we still have to appropriate 92,000 out of fund balance. It's just that 30,000 came from a different source and 60,000 came from our fund balance. So that money would be moved from general fund because we didn't budget any money for this project.
I follow.
So that's how we would have to do that. So you had a,
Oh, just the, and I don't know if we disclosed it, but before we, entered into this, we had a good general idea where this should fall. It's not just the renovation of a bathroom. I mean, we're basically rebuilding that corner of the building, 100 years old.
I can tell you, for example, the fire district is doing their bathrooms over to ADA, and they're not rebuilding a building, and they rebid it because, and it actually, when they rebid it, it came back more expensive than the first time they did it. And it's not far off of what this is. I mean, yes, I know people are gonna say 92,000 for a bathroom, but it's much more than that. It's gonna preserve that building.
It's sitting on a flagstone foundation with the water system that's involved here. I mean, it's a reconstruction of an eighth of the building.
And I will, we don't have all the numbers yet for the 2022. Obviously, we haven't done our annual update document yet, but we are going to be increasing our fund balance by at least 100,000, probably more from what it was in 2021. So in essence, it is money that we collected. Some of it was taxpayer money, some of it was increased sales tax, some of it was increased mortgage tax, greater than what we budgeted for. And some of it was that we didn't spend as much last year as we anticipated. So I think it's worthwhile. I think it's a very well done proposal. I'm very impressed with the thoroughness of it. I do have a couple questions in the contract that I'll let Mary Lou look at. But we can certainly accept it and move it forward if we choose to, move it forward to contract agreement or contract negotiation. And if it doesn't come to, if the contract doesn't ever come to fruition, we're not on the hook. We can just say, well, we couldn't arrive at a agreeable contract, and then we move on. But I don't, we've tried this. This is the third time we bid it out. We finally got a bid, and I think we got a realistic bid.
I like that it's locals.
I like that it's local too. It is a veteran-owned business too. So, and they propose it to be done by, we did ask for July, they're saying August. That's not too bad.
Yeah.
So it's one construction season. I will have, there are some questions about access, if they're gonna work on weekends, we will have to work with the court to figure out access to the building and what has to be closed off or locked out so they can't access it, but.
And then what's our plan for the bathrooms there?
What do you mean the bathroom?
While they're.
They propose a porta potty. And quite frankly, for the amount that the courthouse itself is used, I think that's fine. I mean, we're talking essentially one night a week for about 2 to 3 hours. So, during the day, we still have the bathrooms in the annex, which will still function. So this is just that there'll be no bathroom in the courthouse.
Yeah.
We'll have to find where that location of that porta potty is. Obviously, we don't want to out front of the center, but we want to make it accessible. We could fund a trailer, but that's a significant difference.
Yeah, for that amount.
For that amount of time.
And when really we're looking at 10 hours a month that is needed. I mean, I personally, I think we're okay. I think we should request it that, well, not request, say it has to be ADA compliant. But I think it is, to me, it's acceptable.
Yeah.
So with that, then I'll write a resolution on the spot, because I didn't come with one. So I'm gonna make a motion that we accept the proposal for the Justice Court ADA bathroom renovation presented by M&T Advanced Building Solutions.
I'd like to make that motion.
I think I just made it.
No, well, that was like the second.
But let me say, in the amount of 90, thank you. What Michael said. Now you can second it out.
Now, after the second. Enthusiast.
So, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. Second motion, that we, send the proposed contract to the attorney for the town for review. And, upon agreement by the attorney for the town, now, let's wait till the next meeting to sign it. So, just that we send this to the attorney for the town for review of the proposed contract. I'll stop there. Do I have that motion?
I'll make that motion.
For a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. So I'll send the contract to Mary Lou, get her to review it. I'll also have the judges look at it as well. And we'll make any changes we need to make, and then I'll probably come to you guys on the second and ask to offer to send the amended contract to them for signature. Great, it's exciting. Okay, cannabis code is next. I made all the changes we've talked about. I made all the names. I got rid of the word cannabis establishment, which was a totally made up name by the town of Lloyd. And I'm calling it what it is, adult use cannabis retail dispensary and adult use on-site cannabis consumption facility. So it's what we've all talked about. I made the changes that we discussed. And so if anybody doesn't have anything more, I would make a motion to refer this to the Ulster County. Well, first, to set this as local law B of 2023. I'll do it all in one motion. And to refer it to the Ulster County Planning Board and the Town of Rochester Planning Board for comment. And to set public hearing for February 23rd. Is that enough time? Yeah. February 23rd. To be held at immediately following the public hearing for local law A 2023 at the Harold Lifton Community Center, 15 Tobacco Road, Accord, New York, and to request the town clerk circulate notice of public
I'll make that.
hearing. Okay. Have a
I'll
second.
second.
Okay. Got all that? Great. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained. Okay.
I wanted to add one thing which doesn't change anything, but I did check some of the 500-foot radius,
I did too.
and I felt very comfortable with
Yes.
the results.
I'm sorry, I should have asked the discussion.
But
I did too, and
That was one-
there's many properties that it will be eligible to
yes,
be on.
I didn't realize how long some of those properties are. So,
I did the exact same thing, and there's a few that it won't, but because of the church on 209, but
Yeah.
once you get out of that
Yeah.
radius, either way, you're
Yeah.
good. The I zones, there's a lot of possibilities, so there's a lot of possibilities.
So, just before, since I brought it up, I just want to say it publicly. For the unmarried spouses of deceased members, you have to have been 20 years a member
Okay,
for killed in the line of duty spouses. So,
okay. I'll take the state language and insert it in.
so I'll make sure I clarify that.
Okay. So we're gonna do the stretch code next instead of the building code because we actually have to adopt the stretch code before we adopt the building code. So the stretch code, what this is a New York State Energy Code that is increased a little bit from the normal energy code. It was adopted by the state in 2020 and many other communities have adopted it. This language is straight out of the state language for this. If we adopt this, we have to file it with, besides filing with New York State, we have to file it with this Division of Building Standards and Codes within 30 days. And if it's not filed, then we revert back to the standard energy code, which is, so this is what this is a little bit of an increased ability for the town to regulate energy consumption on new projects. It was asked for that we had adopted by the code enforcement officer, and I think in my review, it's a good thing. So, I'd like to set this for public hearing. I'd like to, instead of doing all these public hearings at the audit meeting, we'll do the 2 zoning ones at the audit meeting, which is the subdivision that. I'd like to set this one and the building code at our regular meeting in March. So we don't have 4 public hearings in one night. So I'm going to ask for a motion to, this will be called local law 3 of 2023. And to set public hearing to be held March 2nd, 2023 at 6 p.m. at the Harold Lipton Community Center, 50 Tobacco Road, Accord, New York, and to request the town clerk circulate notes. No, you can
I'll
make
make the motion.
it. Have a second. Okay. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. Building code. We have changed the language throughout now to reference the stretch code. So in the purpose and intent, the first page, if you look at that B and C section, that is incorporated in to say that we're using the stretch code. Mary Lou did review this. She's fine with it. And throughout the code, wherever it said energy code, it now says state energy code, which is the reference. And I did a word search to make sure I got every place it said energy. So that is the reference for the stretch code. The changes that Jerry talked about, per Mary Lou's recommendation, we did not remove the remote ones because the possibility exists. It doesn't mean we have to grant it, but we probably want to leave the possibility of remote inspections in there. I did make the correction of the language in that one thing that where the piece of it was missing. And that was on page, it's at the bottom of F, it's F4. No, it's not there. I'm sorry. Yeah, it was. So it's section 10, but it's 4 pages afterwards. Section 10 starts F4, where that's the 1 year for all other activities. That's the one that the language was not very clear. And, oh, I did not fix the one though on the next page. It says at least once every exceed 36 months. That's supposed to say at least once every 12 months for multiple dwellings. Because Mary Lou looked that up for us. That's section 11A3. And that's the one that Mary Lou found the language for us, and I had a note to fix it, and apparently I forgot. So, but with that change, I'd ask for a motion to set this, which will be local law 4 of 2023. And to set for public hearing on March 2nd, immediately following the public hearing for local law 3 at the Harold Lipton Community Center, 15 Tobacco Road, and to request the town clerk circulate notice in the public.
I'll make that motion.
One second. I'll second. And that's as amended. Any other questions or discussion? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, we already did the fire code, so with that, ask for a motion to enter into executive session. And we're gonna now talk about 4 things. So we enter into executive session, talk about particular persons for the assessor's field worker position, particular persons involving the planning board, particular persons involving the constabulary, and discussion of an ethics violation or ethics complaint that was filed. And that is at 9:50.
I'll make that motion.
Second,
I'll second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained. Okay, stop us from screaming.